A desperate echo. The crystalline spires of Verix Prime sparkled under the light of 3 moons, each tower resonating with the collective thoughts of the empathic beings who called this world home. In the highest observation chamber of the central harmony spire, first resonator Lyra stood motionless, her translucent form pulsing with waves of deep purple, the color of profound concern. Another station has gone silent, she announced to the circle of elders gathered around her. The other crystalline beings dimmed their natural luminescence in response, their shared empathic field thick with worry. That makes 7 in the past lunar cycle. Elder Harmonist Vex, his ancient form shot through with lines of silver, floated forward. "Show us," he commanded, his thoughts carried on waves of resonant energy that made the chamber's crystals hum. Lyra gestured with one of her 4 upper appendages, and a holographic display materialized in the chamber center. Dots of light represented the Verixi research stations scattered across their solar system, nearly a third of them now dark and lifeless. "The pattern is deliberate," she continued, tracing the progression of destructions. "Whatever is attacking our stations is methodically cutting off our deep space monitoring capabilities. We are being blinded, piece by piece. The Council must be notified," declared Elder Vex, his form flickering with determination. "We have maintained our treaty obligations for 3 centuries. They are bound by law to protect us." Lyra's response came with a pulse of bitter resignation. "I've tried, Elder. All our long-range communications are being intercepted. The attacks begin the moment we attempt to send distress signals through official channels. Someone is watching, waiting." The circle of elders resonated with shared fear, their crystalline bodies vibrating at frequencies that made the chamber's walls sing with discord. The Verixi were researchers, philosophers, and artists. In all their history, they had never developed weapons or warships. Their greatest defense had always been their membership in the Galactic Council. "There is another option," Lyra said quietly, her form dimming to almost total transparency, a sign of both fear and hope among her kind. "In the deepest archives, I found references to an emergency protocol, one left behind by those who came before, those who chose to leave." Elder Vex's form crackled with sharp blue lightning. "Shock. You speak of the Guardians, the humans." The name sent ripples of emotion through the gathered elders. Humans, the species that had walked away from the Galactic Council at the height of their influence, the race that had evolved on a world so harsh that it had forged them into something the rest of the galaxy feared to become. "They left us a beacon," Lyra continued, her voice steady despite the waves of uncertainty emanating from her form. "Before their self-imposed exile, they seeded emergency transmitters throughout the galaxy, a final gift to those who might one day need their particular qualities. The Council forbade any contact with human space," another elder warned, her form pulsing with cautionary red. "To activate such a beacon would violate every treaty we've signed in the past 3 centuries. Lyra floated to the chamber's vast window, gazing out at the glittering cities of her people. In the distance, she could see the Museum of Remembrance, where the histories of all known species were preserved in crystal matrices. Within those archives lay the true stories of humanity, not just the sanitized versions the Council preferred to circulate. Stories of a species that had clawed its way up from a world that tried to kill them daily. A species that had faced extinction a dozen times and emerged stronger. A species that had looked at the impossible and simply refused to accept it. A species that had walked away from galactic civilization, not out of weakness, but because they knew their strength frightened others. "We are running out of options," Lyra said, turning back to the elders. "Whatever is hunting us has already destroyed 7 stations. Each attack claims more lives, more of our people lost to the void. The Council cannot or will not hear our calls for help. So I ask you, what matters more? The letters of ancient treaties or the lives of our people?" The chamber fell silent, save for the subtle harmonics of crystalline beings in deep thought. Then, one by one, the elders began to glow with the soft blue light of agreement. "Show us this beacon," Elder Vex said finally. "Show us how to call the Guardians." Lyra's form brightened as she interfaced with the archive systems. A small hologram appeared in her palm. A simple device, unremarkable save for the worn human writing etched into its surface. "When hope seems lost, break glass." The humans understood symbolism, Lyra noted, allowing herself a moment of appreciation for the ancient device's design. They knew that asking for their help would be an act of desperation, breaking centuries of isolation. She placed the beacon in the chamber's center, where it floated serenely, waiting. The elders gathered around it, their forms creating a prismatic display of shifting colors as emotions rippled through their shared empathic field. The next attack could come at any moment, Lyra reminded them. "We must decide now." Elder Vex extended one crystalline appendage toward the beacon. "Our ancestors knew the humans before they chose exile. They called them the steel under the silk, beautiful and cultured as any race, but with cores of unbreakable strength. If we call them, they will come. And may the void help whatever is hunting us," another elder added. "When they do." Lyra activated the beacon. As it hummed to life, she felt a strange resonance in her crystalline form, as if the device itself carried an echo of human determination. The message it would send was simple, encoded in frequencies that would pierce the darkness between stars. "To the guardians of Earth, we, the Verixi, call for aid. Our people are under attack. Our calls to the Council go unanswered. If you can hear us, if you remember your promise, please come." The beacon pulsed once, twice, and then shot a beam of pure energy straight up through the spire's peak and into the star-filled sky. Somewhere out there, in the self-imposed exile of restricted space, Lyra hoped humans still listened, still remembered their promise to help those truly in need. "Now," she said softly, watching the beacon's signal fade into the darkness, "we wait, and we pray that the stories about human courage were not merely legends after all." High above Verix Prime, something massive shifted in the darkness, its black hull absorbing all light. It had watched the Verixi for weeks, systematically destroying their monitoring stations, preparing for the final assault. Now it detected the beacon's signal, a cry for help speeding toward restricted human space. The hunt was about to become much more interesting. Deep in restricted space, where the light of unfamiliar stars painted shadows across hulls of titanium and carbon mesh, the HFY Avalon drifted in silent patrol. The massive warship, nearly 3 kilometers long, represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a perfect fusion of beauty and devastation, much like humanity itself. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her dark eyes reflecting the distant starlight. 20 years of service had left their mark in the silver threading through her black hair and the subtle lines around her eyes, but her stance remained parade ground perfect. The weight of command and of secrets had shaped her into something as unyielding as her ship's hull. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his sensor station, his voice cutting through the bridge's quiet efficiency. "We're picking up a signal. Old frequency. It's a guardian beacon." The bridge crew froze. In 300 years of self-imposed exile, no species had ever activated one of the emergency beacons humanity had left behind. The devices themselves had become little more than legends, diplomatic gestures from a time when humans still hoped to find their place among the stars. "Verify the signature," Chen ordered, though she already knew. The beacons had been engineered to last millennia, their quantum-locked frequencies impossible to fake. Someone out there had finally become desperate enough to call the monsters home. "Signature confirmed," Rodriguez reported. "Origin point is the Verixi system. They're under attack, Captain. Multiple stations destroyed. Their calls to the Council are being blocked." Chen's jaw tightened. The Verixi. She remembered them from her xenohistory studies. A crystalline species of natural empaths, philosophers who had helped write the very laws of galactic civilization. They were everything humanity had once hoped to become, before the truth about the galaxy had forced them to choose isolation. "Show me the sector," she commanded. A holographic map bloomed in the bridge's center, highlighting the Verixi system in desperate red. "How long at maximum burn?" 36 hours, Captain," her navigation officer replied. "But the Treaty of Separation explicitly forbids human ships from entering Council space. Even responding to this signal would violate 3 centuries of diplomatic precedent." Chen turned to face her crew, seeing the same conflict in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They all knew the cost of breaking isolation, the carefully maintained peace that kept humanity safe from the galaxy's fear, and the galaxy safe from humanity's protective instincts. "Tell me," she said softly, "why did we leave those beacons?" Her first officer, Commander David Okafor, stepped forward. His dark skin bore the ceremonial scars of his Nigerian ancestors, a reminder that humanity carried all its history into the stars. "Because we knew this day would come, Captain. We knew that sooner or later, someone would need what we are." "And what are we, Commander?" "We're the ones who evolved on a death world," he answered, pride evident in his voice. "The ones who looked at predators that could tear us apart and decided to turn them into pets. The ones who saw mountains and thought, 'I can climb that.' The ones who looked into space and said, 'That's our home too.'" Chen nodded, a slight smile touching her lips. "The Council fears us because we're survivors, because we don't know how to give up, because we'll fight through hell to protect what we care about." She turned back to the star map, where the Verixi distress signal pulsed like a wounded heart. "And right now, someone out there is counting on exactly those qualities." She straightened, decision made. "Send word to the fleet. All ships to battle stations. We're answering the call." The bridge erupted into activity, but Lieutenant Rodriguez raised his hand. "Captain, there's something else. The quantum scanners are picking up traces around the Verixi system. Energy signatures we haven't seen in centuries." "Show me." The holographic display zoomed in, highlighting patterns of darkness around the besieged crystalline worlds. Chen's blood ran cold as recognition struck. Now she understood why the Verixi's calls to the Council were being blocked, why humanity's isolation had never been tested until now. "The Void Collective," she whispered. "They're back." The name sent a shiver through the bridge crew. The Void Collective, the real reason humanity had chosen exile. A species that fed on suffering, that turned civilizations into hunting grounds. The Council had refused to believe they existed, had called humans paranoid warmongers for trying to prepare defenses against them. So humanity had done what it always did when faced with impossible odds. They had found another way. They had withdrawn from galactic society, building their strength in secret, waiting for the day the Void Collective would reveal themselves again. "Send a priority signal to Earth Command," Chen ordered, her voice hard as steel. "Tell them the hunters have finally shown themselves. Request activation of the Prometheus Protocol." Commander Okafor's eyes widened. "The entire reserve fleet. That's over 300 warships." "The Verixi don't know it yet," Chen replied, "but they've just helped us spring a trap 3 centuries in the making. The Void Collective thinks they're hunting helpless prey. Instead, they're about to learn why humans were called the apex predators of the galaxy." She turned to her crew, seeing the same fierce determination in their eyes that burned in her heart. "This isn't just about saving the Verixi anymore. This is about showing the galaxy why humanity chose to become its silent guardians. Sound battle stations, launch alert fighters. The hunt begins now." Throughout the restricted zone, lights began to flare as humanity's hidden fleet awakened. Ships that had waited centuries for this moment broke free from their quantum anchors, their crews emerging from cryo-sleep with the same singular purpose that had driven their species since they first looked up at the stars: to protect. The HSS Avalon's engines flared to life, pushing the massive warship toward faster-than-light speeds. Behind it, dozens of other human vessels fell into formation, their hulls gleaming with promised violence. Humanity was done hiding. The Guardians were returning to the galaxy. And the real monsters were about to learn the difference between hunting prey and fighting predators. The shadow's edge. The void between stars ripped open as the HSS Avalon led humanity's fleet into real space. The massive ships emerged like leviathans breaking the ocean's surface, their dark hulls drinking in the light of Verix Prime's 3 moons. In the Avalon's Combat Information Center, Captain Chen watched as tactical displays painted a grim picture of the situation below. Void collective vessels detected in high orbit, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Counting 27 capital ships. There they're herding the Verixi into kill zones. Chen studied the tactical overlay, noting how the black ships of the Void Collective had arranged themselves in a perfect siege pattern around the crystalline cities of Verix Prime. Life signs on the surface. Nearly 8 million Verixi life forms detected. Commander Okafor answered, his voice tight with controlled anger. The collective is taking their time. They're feeding on the fear. Not anymore, Chen declared. She opened a fleet-wide channel, her voice carrying to every human ship in the battle group. All vessels, this is Captain Chen. The Void Collective thinks they're apex predators. Time to remind them what real predators look like. Initiate Operation Thunderbolt. The human fleet split into prearranged attack groups, moving with the practiced precision of hunters who had trained centuries for this moment. The Void Collective ships began to react, their black hulls shifting like liquid shadow as they registered the unexpected threat. They're transmitting, Rodriguez called out. In all frequencies, a voice filled the bridge, its artificial tones carrying centuries of malice. Human vessels, you violate treaties. This hunt is sanctioned. The weak feed the strong. This is the law of existence. Chen's response was cutting. Funny, we have a different law. It's called picking on someone your own size. She nodded to her weapons officer. Show them what humanity's been working on during our exile. The Avalon's main gun spoke, a lance of concentrated plasma that burned with the fury of a newborn star. It struck the nearest Void Collective vessel dead center, and for a moment, the black hull seemed to absorb the attack. Then the plasma round detonated, releasing a carefully engineered frequency that shattered the quantum fields holding the shadow ship together. The vessel didn't explode so much as unravel, its very structure falling apart at the atomic level. 3 centuries of research, Chen said quietly as the enemy ship dissolved into space. Turns out everything has a weakness, even living shadows. The battle erupted in earnest then, space itself seeming to scream as human ingenuity clashed with eldritch horror. The Void Collective ships were fast, their phantom-like hulls able to phase through conventional attacks, but humanity had spent centuries preparing for exactly this fight. Each human vessel carried weapons specifically designed to disrupt the quantum fields that gave the collective their power. On the surface of Verix Prime, First Resonator Lyra watched the battle unfolding above her world with a mixture of awe and terror. The gathered elders around her pulsed with shared emotion as they witnessed humanity's return to galactic space. Such power, Elder Vex whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with each distant explosion. The stories didn't do them justice. A new signal cut through their communications network, carried on frequencies that somehow pierced the Void Collective's jamming. A human voice, female and firm. Verixi leadership, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the human spaceship Avalon. We received your call. Hold fast. We're coming to get you. Lyra's form brightened with hope as she witnessed what happened next. Human dropships began burning through the atmosphere, their hulls glowing with re-entry heat as they threaded through the ongoing space battle. Each carried troops and equipment, the promised rescue already in motion even as the fight above continued to rage. The first human Lyra saw in person was a towering figure in powered armor, stepping out of a drock ship with the fluid grace of a natural predator. The soldier removed their helmet, revealing the face of a young woman with dark skin and fierce eyes. Lieutenant Maya Santos, she introduced herself, her voice carrying both strength and compassion. First contact team. Sorry we took so long to answer your call. Lyra found herself resonating with unexpected emotions from the human: determination, protectiveness, and a deep, burning anger at those who would harm the innocent. The Verixi's empathic abilities had never encountered anything quite like the intensity of human feelings. You actually came," Lyra managed, her crystalline form pulsing with gratitude. Santos smiled, though her eyes remained hard as she tracked the battle above. "Humanity made a promise when we left those beacons. We keep our promises." She turned to her team, already deploying defense systems around the crystalline spire. "Besides, we've been waiting a long time to settle accounts with the Void Collective." That's when Lyra felt it. A deep resonance between her crystalline nature and the strange energy emanating from the human's powered armor. Her scientific curiosity overcame her fear. "Your technology. It operates on quantum frequencies similar to our own crystalline matrices." Santos nodded, her smile growing wider. "We studied everything we could find about your species during our exile. Your natural quantum resonance capabilities. They might be the key to finally ending the Void Collective's reign of terror, if you're willing to help us." Above them, the space battle had reached a stalemate. The human fleet had destroyed several Void Collective ships, but the rest had adapted, their shadow stuff hulls shifting to new frequencies to avoid the targeted weapons. "They're learning," Santos explained, watching the tactical feeds. "But so do we. Your people's ability to manipulate quantum fields naturally, combined with our combat technology." She left the thought unfinished, looking at Lyra with hopeful expectation. Lyra's form pulsed with sudden understanding. The humans hadn't just come to rescue them. They'd come because they believed the Verixi might be the missing piece in their centuries-long plan to defeat humanity's ancient enemy. She looked up at the battle raging in her world's sky, then back at the human soldier standing ready to defend her people. 3 centuries ago, the galaxy had feared humanity's strength. Now that very strength might be all that stood between civilization and the darkness that sought to devour it. "Tell me," Lyra said, her form glowing with determination, "how we can help." In the heart of the Central Harmony Spire, humans and Verixi worked with desperate speed to merge 2 technologies never meant to meet. Lieutenant Santos watched in amazement as Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with complex quantum frequencies, each wave perfectly synchronized with the modified power core from Santos's combat armor. "The resonance is holding," Lyra announced, her voice harmonizing with the hum of human technology. "Your quantum matrices are adapting to our crystalline patterns. It's beautiful." Above them, through the spire's transparent walls, the space battle had evolved into a deadly dance. The Void Collective ships had recovered from their initial surprise, their shadow stuff hulls now shifting through frequencies faster than human weapons could target them. Several human vessels bore the scars of the Collective's counterattack, patches of absolute darkness that seemed to eat away at their hulls. Captain Chen's voice crackled through the command channel. "Ground team, we're losing our advantage up here. The Collective is adapting faster than predicted. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly." Santos checked the readings from the jury-rigged quantum amplifier they'd built. The device looked like something from a fever dream. Sleek human technology intertwined with living crystal, pulsing with possibilities. "How soon can we scale this up?" Lyra's form brightened with determination. "The resonance pattern is stable. We can transmit it through our planetary crystal network. Every Verixi on the surface can add their quantum signature to the matrix. 8 million crystalline beings," Santos breathed, "all resonating in perfect harmony with our battle fleet's weapon systems." She keyed her comm. "Captain, we're ready. But there's something you need to know. This link goes both ways. When we activate the network, every Verixi on the planet is going to feel everything we feel. All of it." There was a moment of silence on the channel. Everyone understood what that meant. The Verixi were empaths, their crystalline forms naturally attuned to emotions. They were about to be linked not just to human technology, but to human consciousness in combat. They would experience humanity's capacity for violence firsthand. Elder Vex floated forward, his ancient form glowing with quiet resolve. We understand the price. We choose to pay it. Better to know the full measure of our guardians than to fall to the void. Chen's response was solemn. Are you certain? What we are in battle. It's not gentle. Neither is survival, Lyra answered. Activate the link. Let us see humanity as you truly are. Santos nodded to her technical team. Around the planet, human engineers stationed at crystal nexus points stood ready. At her signal, they activated their devices simultaneously. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every Verixi on the planet suddenly resonated with human battle consciousness. The controlled fury, the protective rage, the absolute determination to stand between innocent life and those who would destroy it. Their crystalline forms blazed with new understanding as they experienced firsthand what it meant to evolve on a death world, to be shaped by millions of years of survival against impossible odds. In orbit, the human fleet's weapon systems suddenly pulsed with crystalline energy, targeting computers that had been struggling to lock onto the phase-shifting Void Collective ships now had perfect tracks, guided by the combined quantum awareness of 8 million crystalline minds. All ships, open fire, Chen commanded. Show them what humanity and the Verixi can do together. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Human weapons, enhanced by Verixi quantum resonance, cut through the Void Collective's defenses like light through darkness. Each shot carried not just physical force, but the combined will of two species united in defense of life itself. The collective ships tried to adapt, their shadow stuff forms writhing as they sought new frequencies to hide in. But there was nowhere to hide from the crystalline awareness that now permeated space itself. The Verixi, experiencing combat for the first time through their link with humanity, proved to be naturals at the art of war. Their innate understanding of quantum fields, combined with human tactical experience, created something entirely new. On the Avalon's bridge, Captain Chen watched in awe as her tactical displays showed Void Collective ships being systematically torn apart. They're not just helping us target, she realized. The Verixi are predicting where the Collective will try to shift. They're seeing the quantum possibilities before they happen. Commander Okafor's voice was filled with wonder. Two species, each seeing what the other needed to become whole. We had the strength to fight but couldn't lock them down. They had the awareness but never learned to use it defensively. The Void Collective's previous confidence had evolved into something new. Fear. For the first time in their long history of hunting civilizations, they were experiencing what it meant to be prey. Their remaining ships began to retreat, trying to open escape vectors to higher dimensions. They're running, Rodriguez reported from his sensor station. Shall we pursue? Chen studied the tactical display, noting how the crystalline resonance was already beginning to fade as the immediate danger passed. This victory was important, but it was only the beginning. Let them go. Let them carry the message to the rest of their kind. Let them learn what happens when they hunt those under humanity's protection. In the central Harmony Spire, Santos watched as Lyra's form slowly returned to its natural resonance. The first resonator was silent for a long moment, processing everything she had experienced through the link. Now we understand, Lyra said finally, her voice carrying new depths. Why the galaxy feared you. Why you chose to step away. Your capacity for violence is tremendous. But so is your restraint. Your dedication to protection. Santos removed her helmet, letting the Verixi see her expression. We became what we had to become to survive our world. But we never lost sight of why survival matters. It's not just about being strong enough to live. It's about being strong enough to help others live too. Above them, the human fleet began moving into defensive positions around Verix Prime. The battle was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Void Collective would return, stronger and more prepared. But they would find something waiting for them that they had never encountered before. Two species working as one, combining human strength with Verixi awareness. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had really chosen isolation, not out of fear of what they might do to others, but out of preparation for this moment, when their strength would be needed most. The Guardians had returned, and they had found worthy allies at last. The price of protection. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos as the Verixi transmission ended. The massive chamber, designed to hold representatives from over 1,000 species, resonated with a cacophony of voices, clicks, and electromagnetic pulses as the assembled delegates tried to process what they had just witnessed. High Counselor Zaxtel, his insectoid form practically vibrating with agitation, raised all 4 of his primary limbs for silence. The evidence is undeniable. The Void Collective, the very threat humanity warned us about 3 centuries ago, has revealed itself. And humanity, despite our fear, despite our restrictions, despite our treaties, they came when called. First Resonator Lyra's crystalline form shimmered in the holographic projection at the chamber center. Beside her stood Captain Sarah Chen, her dress uniform bearing the stark insignia of the human defense fleet. The contrast between them was striking, one a being of living crystal, the other forged from the evolution of a death world. Yet they stood together as equals. The Void Collective has hunted civilizations since before your council existed, Chen stated, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. We tried to warn you. When you wouldn't listen, we didn't argue. We didn't force the issue. We simply withdrew and prepared, because that's what humans do. We find a way. By developing weapons of unprecedented power, called out one delegate, by maintaining a fleet that could dominate the galaxy. Lyra's form pulsed with a new confidence that made several council members shift uncomfortably. They developed those weapons to protect us. All of us. My people have touched human minds in battle. We have felt their fury, yes, but we have also felt their restraint, their dedication to protection. The chamber's displays filled with footage from the Battle of Verix Prime. Council members watched in stunned silence as human warships deliberately placed themselves between Void Collective weapons and civilian populations. They saw human soldiers evacuating Verixi children while under fire. They witnessed the moment when humanity's strength and Verixi awareness combined to create something that changed the very nature of space combat. The Void Collective is returning, Chen continued. What you saw at Verix Prime was just a scouting force. Our long-range sensors detect massive fleet movements in the dark spaces between galaxies. They're coming in force, and they're hungry. High Counselor Zaxtel's antennae twitched, a sign of deep thought among his species. You're not just here to report victory. You're here to propose something. An alliance, Lyra answered, not built on fear of human strength, but on trust in human protection. What we achieved on Verix Prime was just the beginning. Each species in this council has unique capabilities, combined with humanity's defensive technology and combat experience. You want us to become warriors, a delegate demanded, their bioluminescent form flickering with disgust. No, Chen replied firmly. We want you to remain exactly what you are. Scientists, artists, philosophers, builders of civilization. That's what humanity fought to become too, before our world taught us we needed to be more. Let us be your guardians. Let us do what evolution shaped us to do. Stand between the light of civilization and the darkness that wants to devour it. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Species that had feared humanity's strength for centuries were beginning to see it in a new light. The Void Collective was coming, and suddenly the galaxy didn't seem quite so afraid of its protectors. Lyra raised her crystalline form, commanding attention. My people were like you once. We feared humanity's capacity for violence, but we have learned that there is something far more important about them. Their capacity for sacrifice. Their willingness to fight so others don't have to. Their absolute dedication to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. She turned to Chen, her form resonating with emotions that every council member could feel. Humanity didn't hide in exile because they were ashamed of what they are. They didn't build their fleet out of dreams of conquest. They spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, when the galaxy would need guardians strong enough to face the darkness. High Counselor Zaxtel rose to his full height. "Captain Chen, you speak of protection, of standing against this darkness. But why should we trust that humanity won't simply become another threat once the Void Collective is defeated?" Chen's smile was both fierce and sad. "Because that's not who we are." Humanity crawled out of the mud of a death world, looked up at the stars, and dreamed not of conquest, but of connection. We built mighty ships not to rule, but to explore, to meet new life, to learn, to grow. Yes, we're dangerous, but only to those who threaten what we've sworn to protect. She gestured to the battle footage still playing above them. "Look at those ships. Look at those soldiers." Every one of them volunteered to exile themselves from galactic society, to spend centuries training, preparing, waiting for this moment, not because they wanted to fight, but because they couldn't bear the thought of others suffering while they had the strength to prevent it. The chamber fell silent as the council members watched the footage again. They saw what they had missed before, the precision in every shot, the careful positioning of ships to minimize civilian casualties, the way human soldiers put themselves at risk to save even a single life. Lyra's final words resonated through the chamber. The galaxy feared humanity's strength without understanding its purpose. Now the real monsters are coming. The only question is, will you continue to fear your guardians, or will you stand with them? One by one, the council members began to signal agreement. The age of fear was ending. The age of protection was beginning. As Chen watched the council's vote, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Humanity could finally step into the role they had prepared for all along, not as conquerors, not as outcasts, but as guardians, protectors of a galaxy that had finally learned to see strength not as something to fear, but as a shield against the darkness. The real war was still to come, but this time, humanity wouldn't face it alone. This time, they would stand with allies who understood that sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones who fight not for glory, not for power, but for the simple, unshakable promise to protect those who need protection. The Guardian's call had been answered, and the galaxy would never be the same.